Welcome to another Practice Profit Report. Hey, I'm so excited to be with you today and talk about one of the most overused words of all time called time management. Okay, it's very interesting that, time is the one thing we all have in common. Every successful person, every human on earth that's alive for a day has 24 hours. And I know you've heard this expression before, but the only difference is not the time they have, it's what they do with it. So we always talk about, energy, prioritization, the management of what goes in the time, not the management of the time itself. So in other words, hey, that's you. You have to first and foremost have a success system for you. Now, the same thing applies to your clinical schedule. Why can we have a doctor with 6, 7, 8 clinical hours, one operatory, one assistant, one patient at a time? Even if you got multiple rooms, you got multiple assistants, you got multiple things happening, you are with, in any moment, one patient at a time, in one operatory at a time, with one, unless you're doing maybe massive surgeries, 2 assistants at a time. So in a 6, 7, 8 hour day, if you go across the country, how can some doctors fight to get to 5 and some doctors easily hit $50,000 in a day? Is it the time management? No. Okay, it's the success system. It's the value of what goes in the time that matters. So today, I want to talk to you about the greatest difference between failure and success. The greatest difference between busyness and efficiencies. You got to be efficient, but efficiency at a low level still ain't going to be a great result. Okay? And I'm talking about productivity and effectiveness. That's what we're talking about. And I'll go to these 3 great words, the 3 Ds we'll call them. Discernment, discipline, and determination. Now, all of those words are going to be based around the quality of your decisions. That's the key. So when you make a decision, are you making a decision on the right shit? That's the point. And then that's discernment on decision. Discipline on the follow through. Determination on absolute commitment to results. That's what we're talking about here. Okay? So the difference between failure and success, discernment, discipline, determination. Okay? And it is this. I always tell my doctors, I say, hey, you can have it all in your life. You just can't have it all at once. You can do it all in your life. You just can't do it all at once. Okay? So, you think about, you're trying to fit something into something else. There's a way to do it, but you got to decide what goes in, what gets left out. You got to say what comes first, okay, what is if you have time for it. Most people have all this in reverse order. Okay? They have the things that are most significant, probably require the most amount of energy, effort, and time, okay, but they don't leave room for them because the easy stuff creeps in. So I want you to ask yourself, if you were to make higher level decisions, you would have more discernment with your time, with your life, with your responsibilities, with your family, with your patients, with yourself, with basically the things that you do. If you were to execute with more discipline, and if you were to be dogmatic with determination. See, most people, successful people can be stubborn. It's just that mediocre people are stubborn with the wrong things. So you want to elevate, your actions in this way. The difference between failure and success is, people they look successful because they're doing lots of shit, but they're actually not so successful because they're letting too much of the wrong stuff get done. Whereas successful people, they might do less, but they do it at a higher level. And that's why it's not just about focus, it's about what you focus on. Boom! The 3 Ds. Determine what you focus on. If you were to do a time inventory of your life, every single week and day, you be the judge. It's going to be real easy, where you could swap some stuff out. where you could up-level some value, where you could drive productivity and effectiveness instead of just busyness and efficiencies, trying to get more done instead of trying to focus on and make more time for the right things. That's why today I wanted to talk to you about the magic formula. And everyone understands the 80-20 rule. But I'm not going to restate the principle of the 80-20 rule. What I want you to realize is that 80% of your life is required to do the things that makes the 20% possible. But without focus on the 20%, the 80% will always be watered down. So it's what is driving you. Is the 80% driving the 20, or is the 20% driving the 80? And when you do that, you're able to expand a greater percentage of time into the top 20%. You know, in my wealth groups, in our orientation or our kickoff with wealth attraction and money multiplication, one of the single key things we talk about is don't give away 10%, okay, invest 10% and save 10%. Instead, let's get to 50-50. How can we get to 50% forward on the future? 50% is for today. And eventually, I want to reverse that. I want to make 30% the life, okay? And I want to make 70%, okay, the money business or the multiplication business. Same thing here. How can you get to 50% of your time invested in the top 20% of your life? That means you have to know what the top 20% is. And then, okay, make the bottom 50% support the top. Remember, is the bottom driving the top or the top driving the bottom? That's what all this is about. And then we take it to the next level. And then we say, what is the top 5%? Or in this case, you could say 20% of the 20% is 4%. And then the 1% advantage, knowing what the most significant 1% in your life is. And then how much of your time can you get invested in the 1%? You see, this is not percentage of time. This is value of execution. So if you were to take your entire life and you were to define what's my top 1, what's my top 4, what's my top 20, what's my top or bottom 80? And then you look at that and you see how much of your time is invested in these things. The more of the percentage of time you can get into the top, smaller stuff, more focus, more discernment, discipline, and determination, the greater all the rest of it will become. Most people are constantly trying to improve the busyness instead of up-level the value of the highest leverage points. You get stuck in the muck. Zig used to say, cooked in the squat. Or you elevate up. You need 80% of your life invested in the top sections. And then you use other people, you use other systems and technologies to deliver the machine that drives, okay, the delivery of the top 20%. So listen, I hope I've shaken you up today. I hope that you can take this. Action number 1 is to allocate what are the actions, the responsibilities in the 1, 5, 20, 80. Okay? And then your week in the life of all the days and hours. All right? And then I want you to do all that deal and apply. Where are the minutes going? How can we start shifting more for you up, less, for you down? And then understand that it all comes back to the 3 Ds of success. The 3 Ds that determine, okay, not failure, which is busyness and efficiencies, but success, productivity, and effectiveness. It's not all created equal. And I'll give you the last one. And you know why? You know why this matters? I'll tell you why. There's one thing above all else. Guilt-free, zero judgment, immunity to criticism. Know who you are and who you're important to. My favorite saying, I put it out for Halloween. But you see that right there? I'm perfectly okay with not being liked by everyone. But it's really important to me to being liked by the ones that matter most in the scheme of my life that I decide and I'm in control over. And I want all that same thing for you. Hey, lots to go make happen here. I look forward to hearing your great results. Thanks, everybody.